Mexico and Alaska. Let's develop it in shale plays. Let's create jobs. Let's create a secure energy future for this country. And let's move this country forward. Madam Speaker, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The gentleman from Utah reserves. The gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If we defeat the previous question, I'll offer an amendment to this rule that will allow the House to consider the Stop the Rate Hike Act of 2012, legislation that would keep the student loan interest rate low and reduce the deficit. If Congress fails to act, more than 7 million students across this country will see their student loan interest rate double come July 1st. July 1st, just around the corner. It's outrageous that at this time of slow and painful economic recovery, the majority continues to refuse to work on this issue in a bipartisan way. To discuss this proposal, I'll yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Courtney.
The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Polis, for yielding and for, again, bringing this issue back to the floor, which, as my chart indicates, we're now down to 10 days. When this chart was first created, it was 110 days, and it coincided with the delivery of 130,000 petition signatures from college campuses all across America, pleading with Congress to listen to President Obama's challenge on January 25th, right from that podium, that we should block the increase from going through. My legislation, which was introduced at midnight the same night, had 152 co-sponsors to lock in the lower rate. For 3 months, nothing happened. A bill was rushed to the floor by the majority without any consultation with the other side, took money out of a fund to pay for cervical cancer screening, diabetes screening, a hyper-partisan measure which the President indicated he would veto even before the vote was taken. The good news is that Mr. Boehner has already moved away from that proposal. He sent a letter with Senator McConnell to the Senate leadership offering new pay-fors and moving off of the House bill, again, that was rushed through with absolutely no consultation on any bipartisan basis. There are 7 million college students who are waiting for an answer in the next 10 days to this issue. The rates will double from 3.4% to 6.8%. Senator Reid has talked already about a proposal which is a pay-for that, again, there appears to be some willingness to move forward on. We should be focused on that issue right now, not this measure which is on the floor, which is going nowhere. It's another bill which will never see the light of the day in the Senate. This issue, helping students pay for college at a time when student loan debt now exceeds $1 trillion, is the issue that America is watching and waiting. And editorially from Florida all the way to the West Coast, newspapers are demanding bipartisan compromise, not the kind of measure which was rammed through this House a month and a half ago. The building blocks are there, but we have to focus on that, not the measure that's before us here today. And the Tierney bill is a perfect opportunity for us to do something which, again, has a balanced approach and which will protect students from doubling of their student loan interest rates. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Colorado reserves, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to a member who is really a great and wonderful member of this body, the gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Miller.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, and I certainly appreciate the gentleman for yielding time. Madam Speaker, our economy is struggling. The American people need jobs, and too many families are struggling under the burden of ever-rising energy prices. It's certainly time, long past time actually, for the federal government to act, and today this House will act. This nation, Madam Speaker, has been blessed with so many energy resources, just vast energy resources, that if we actually advantaged ourselves of, we could actually meet all of our nation's energy needs. We could create countless jobs, good-paying jobs right here at home. We could provide needed funding for our federal treasury, expand our economy, make our nation more secure. But unfortunately, we don't do that. Instead, in fact, we are nearly the only nation, I think, on the face of the planet, really, that does not take advantage of its own natural energy resources. Instead, we unfortunately have made the choice to rely on foreign sources of energy to meet many of our needs, many from unstable or unfriendly nations to whom we export literally hundreds of billions of dollars of our national wealth each and every year. And we bypass the opportunity to create needed jobs right here at home. This absolutely needs to change. While President Obama talks about an all-of-the-above energy strategy, his actions tell a different story, really. While exploration of oil and other energy resources is up overall, it's been reduced on lands under federal control under this administration. And this administration's EPA has made the coal industry public enemy #1, even though it's the cheapest and most abundant source of electric generation that we have here in our nation. Today, this House will act on a true all-of-the-above energy strategy. This legislation will streamline and remove government red tape as hurdles to energy production. It will require our nation to put forward goals for production of all energy sources, including oil, natural gas, coal, renewables, of course, on federal lands. And it will make the permitting process much easier, and it will open up new areas to exploration and development, both onshore as well as offshore. This legislation will lower energy prices for hard-pressed consumers. It will create good-paying jobs here at home, and it will enhance our economic security and national security as well. I certainly urge all of my colleagues to join me in supporting this critical legislation, and I appreciate the gentleman yielding time, and I support the rule as well. Thank you very much.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Utah reserves, and the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Capps.
The gentlelady is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank my colleague for yielding. Madam Speaker, I rise to express my strong opposition to this rule and the underlying bill. We all know that high oil and gasoline prices take their toll on American consumers. Understandably, they want their elected officials to take action. But what the American people don't want is empty promises. And they don't want more political posturing designed to score cheap political points in an election year. And that's all this bill gives us. H.R. 4480 blocks and delays EPA air quality protections that haven't even been proposed yet. It includes a radical proposal that damages the Clean Air Act goal that air should be clean enough to breathe safely. And it gives the Energy Department the job of developing a new drilling plan on federal lands, even though this is not its area of expertise at all. Madam Speaker, the idea behind this bill is just not thought out. It's not a solution to high oil and gasoline prices, nor will it create any immediate jobs. It is really nothing more than a transparent attempt to use this issue as an excuse for advancing an agenda in order to hurt our precious resources of lands and our own health. And that's why I had sent to the Rules Committee a straightforward amendment that would have protected my state's coastline from new offshore drilling. And my Republican colleague from California, Mr. Braley, had a similar amendment on the same issue. But this Rules Committee is not allowing either amendment even to be debated, even to have its say on the House floor. A state where offshore drilling has been protected in state waters will now, because these amendments were not made in order, have to allow the federal government to work its will in contradiction to the state. And that's wrong. And that's why members from both sides should use their good sense and oppose this rule and oppose the underlying bill. I yield back the balance of my time.
He yields back. The gentleman from Colorado reserves, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
I am now pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, distinguished chairman, who has probably heard many of these arguments before, Chairman Hall.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I rise, of course, in support of H.R. 4480, the Domestic Energy and Jobs Act, a proactive piece of legislation that encourages and expands production of our vast domestic resources to help put our Americans back to work. I strongly believe that, other than prayer, energy is probably the most important word in the dictionary for our young people. It's the foundation upon which our nation has prospered and the key to our quality of life and our standard of living. America is blessed with the wealth of natural resources and energy resources, leading Citigroup to predict that we could soon become the world's largest oil producer. The recent shale gas resolution has driven production to new heights and prices to new lows. It's created hundreds of thousands of new jobs and stimulated a resurgence of domestic manufacturing in this country. In 2010, unconventional natural gas production alone supported approximately 1 million American jobs. Simultaneously, shale oil production has led to rapid and dramatic economic growth and job creation in places not typically known for energy production, such as North Dakota. Workers are flocking to the state to pursue the abundant opportunities in the Bakken shale, while the nation suffers unemployment rates in excess of 8%. Unemployment in North Dakota is in the lowest in this country at just 3%. The only thing preventing us from reaping the benefits of being a world leader in energy production is bureaucratic red tape, permitting delays, declining production on federal land, restricted access, and stifling regulations all stand in the way. H.R. 4480 would free us from these barriers put forth by the administration and instead set us on the right track to unleash the full energy potential of this nation. The bill addresses numerous issues the Science, Space, and Technology Committee has examined, including, for example, costly Tier 3 regulations that would increase the price of fuel at the time when families can least afford to pay more than that for their commute. Not only would this standard place a burden on household budgets, but the EPA ignored the law by failing to complete a study on the detrimental effects of RSF prior to beginning work on these standards. Quite simply, again, the EPA failed to do its homework, instead barreling forward with regulations without a sufficient foundation. Regulations like this one are far too often based upon shaky science, devoid of adequate peer review, and rely on secret data EPA refuses to share with the public. The EPA ignores the scientific method in order to overstate the economic benefits of its rules in an attempt to justify their sizable cost. H.R. 4480 takes a time out from EPA's activist regulation agenda and seeks to put our country on track to pursue a genuine all of the above energy strategy that would expand opportunities for production rather than stifle them.
Given an additional minute.
I urge members to support this rule as well as the underlying bill, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Utah reserves, and the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to submit to the record a letter signed by American Academy of Pediatrics and others.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a rare time when we are talking about energy, when we are hearing from the Academy of Pediatrics, the Heart Association, the American Lung Association, the Public Health Association, the Association of City County Health Officials, and a number of other signatories on this letter that say very simply we should make sure that the EPA can determine whether our air is safe to breathe and not do it based on how much it costs to reduce air pollution. Madam Speaker, I am proud to yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Markey.
The gentleman is recognized for 4 minutes.
I thank the gentleman very much. This bill represents the latest Republican attempt to give away our public lands to the wealthiest oil companies in the world. This bill is the culmination of the Republican oil above all agenda. Instead of approving this legislative love letter to big oil, the majority should be sending a thank you note to President Obama for his actions to increase domestic energy production and decrease our dependence on foreign oil. The truth is that oil production from federal lands onshore today is higher than it was under President Bush. And across the United States, oil production from all public and private lands, is unbelievably now at an 18-year high. Obama is drilling, baby. He's drilling. The Obama administration's all-of-the-above strategy has also been successful in creating jobs. Since 2008, 14,000 new jobs have been created in oil and gas extraction. Thank you, President Obama. But 50,000 new jobs have also been created in wind and solar. But Republicans don't want a real all-of-the-above energy strategy. At the Rules Committee, I offered an amendment, along with Mr. Welch, that would have established a national renewable energy standard. That amendment would have created wind and solar all across our country as a standard. That amendment was germane to this bill and had no budgetary impact, but the Republican majority refused to even allow us to debate an amendment so that members could have a chance to vote on an actual all-of-the-above package that wasn't just oil and gas. And President Obama is about as good a president as you can have on that issue, but wind and solar and biomass and geothermal and all of these technologies of the future, they refuse to even allow the Democrats to have a vote on that on the House floor this afternoon. They are not all of the above. They are oil above all. They don't want wind and solar because the oil industry doesn't want it and the coal industry doesn't want it because it's real competition from the future. The renewable electricity standard that I would have offered would have created 300,000 new jobs and saved consumers billions of dollars on their electricity bills. In 2007, 32 Republicans joined 188 Democrats in overwhelming support of a similar renewable electricity standard. In 2009, the House again passed that policy on a bipartisan basis. It died in the Senate both times. Today, it dies here on the House floor because the Republicans don't want 32 Republicans. They even have the right to vote for wind and solar and biomass and geothermal. They're afraid that Republicans might vote for it. So there's a gag here, a gag order on the floor saying no debate on the renewables because oil and coal don't want it debated. There will not be a vote on this. The majority has voted more than 100 times in this Congress to help the oil industry, but they have not voted once in favor of clean energy in the year and a half that they have controlled the United States Congress. Moreover, because they will not extend the production tax credit for wind, 40,000 jobs are going to be lost in the wind industry in the first 6 months of 2013. This is the Big Oil Dream Act. This is the Dream Act of the Republicans. This is something that should be opposed.
The gentleman's time has
yield back the
expired.
balance of my time.
The gentleman from Colorado reserves, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
Ironically, I do agree with the gentleman from Massachusetts in one element of what he said, that this administration, President Obama, is drilling on permits that were granted by Bush and Clinton. The unfortunate side is that this administration is not permitting any new drilling permits for the future growth of this country. With that, I am pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentlelady from Tennessee, who has been working diligently for many years on this particular issue and has a clear understanding of it, Ms. Blackburn.
The gentlelady is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman from Utah for yielding the time, and I am so pleased, Madam Speaker, that we are pushing forward on some bills that are going to actually create the environment for jobs growth to take place. Of course, we know that that is needed by the American people. We hear about it every single day. You know, we're at the longest streak that we have had since the Great Depression, the longest streak, with unemployment being above 8%. If you look at underemployment, it's at 14.8%. Clearly, the American people are speaking out that they want action and they want to get back to work. The Domestic Energy and Jobs Act will do that, helping to create the environment for jobs growth to take place, helping to create the environment where we take actions to fuel this economy. Our unemployment and underemployment numbers should be a wake-up call to the President, should be a wake-up call to the Senate. They can't continue to sit on their hands and play the blame game while 13 million Americans remain out of work. As I said, this legislation will help create the jobs that are needed in our nation's energy sector. What we want to see is more American-made energy, more American exploration. We want to see American innovation and end our dependence on foreign oil. Those are worthy goals, and these are steps in the right direction. We also hear a lot about the price at the pump. I have many friends who are the mom in the minivan and are getting children back and forth to and from activities, and at $3.50 a gallon is the new normal, if you will. Gas having doubled, the price of gasoline as a transportation fuel having doubled since this president was sworn in. You know, this is something that women talk to us about regularly. There are deep concerns about this. The greatest potential for economic growth in this country can be found in this nation's precious natural resources, in our energy resources. And while the president is clearly preoccupied with telling Americans that what we won't do on energy, what he will not take steps to do, the economy and jobs, and what he isn't going to do there, House Republicans are laying out a pathway for what we can do. By working hard, we can empower those innovators to harness our domestic energy capabilities using so many of those new technologies that are out there, new innovations that have been brought forward by so many of the petroleum engineers and the innovators in this country.
Additional minute.
I have to say this, with every new discovery of American energy and every new technology advancement, we are able to put more into the marketplace for our nation's manufacturers, engineers, our leasing specialists, our rig operators, and much more. I recently had the opportunity to be back in South Mississippi, where I grew up. Had the opportunity to talk with some of the men and women who are involved and working and innovating in the oil and gas industry every single day. What I heard from them was the degree of advancement and the number of opportunities that exist if the federal government will get out of the way and return our focus to creating the environment for energy exploration and jobs growth to take place in this great nation. I yield back.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from Utah reserves, and the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's my honor to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California, Mr. Garamendi.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, the gentlelady was quite correct about worrying about the price of gasoline, and as you sit around talking about that, you ought to be concerned about the 24 million gallons of gasoline that is exported from the United States every day. And you might also want to consider that the price of natural gas has plummeted by more than 60% during the Obama administration, providing us with an extraordinary opportunity for growth. But what I'd really like to talk about is this bill is not a Strategic Energy Production Act. It does not deal with the renewable energies. In fact, the wind energy industry in the United States is about to come to a screeching halt. 75,000 jobs are presently in this industry. We're already beginning to see the downsizing. 17,000 are now being laid off because the production tax credit is not being extended. If we were to extend the production tax credit, we could probably find another 37,000 people working next year. And if we added to this my piece of legislation, 487, which requires that our tax dollars, in this case a production tax credit, be spent on American-made equipment, we could see perhaps even more manufacturing in the United States. Bottom line, the Strategic Energy Production Act is an act for the oil and coal industry. It is not for America. We need to change that. We need to look at all of the above, not just oil and coal.
The gentleman from Colorado reserves, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Griffin.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank sir. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in strong support of H.R. 4480, the Domestic Energy and Jobs Act, a package of 7 bills that, taken together, will create jobs and make America more energy independent. There are a number of provisions, but among them the bill reforms and streamlines the energy permitting process by setting firm timelines for legal challenges and limiting the duration of injunctions. This provision is critical because it addresses all the red tape, the Washington red tape, and the constant wave of lawsuits by radical environmentalists that have prevented many American energy projects from ever getting off the ground. Some of them have been stalled for decades. Too often, activist Washington lawyers come between the American people and abundant, affordable energy. With this bill, we are fighting back. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Project No Project report, energy permitting reform could unleash investment to the tune of $3.4 trillion in economic benefits and over 2.6 million jobs created. All you got to do is look at the state of North Dakota for the benefits of producing American energy. Oil and gas production is booming. The state has a 3% unemployment rate. Wouldn't we like to have that nationally? Good grief. And workers are sleeping in their cars, many of them, because the housing supply can't keep up with demand. And in my home state of Arkansas, we've got our own success story. Production in the Fayetteville Shale and the Brown Dense Formation has and will continue to create jobs and American energy. But we can't afford to let up. We have talked way too long about job creation and energy independence. We need less talk and more action. I urge all my colleagues to support this important bill to create jobs and increase American energy independence. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Utah reserves, and the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I would like to yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lee.
The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Let me thank the gentleman for yielding and for your tremendous leadership on this issue. Of course, I rise in strong opposition to the rule and also the bill. This so-called Domestic Jobs and Energy Act is yet another example of how the Tea Party-led House is wasting American people's time by passing legislation that will never become law. This unconscionable wish list for big oil contains dangerous provisions that would irresponsibly expand drilling on public lands, roll back policies to provide for the safe and responsible energy production in the United States, and it will endanger our public health by blocking important public health safeguards under the Clean Air Act. Gutting the Clean Air Act will not lower gas prices, but it will hurt the health of millions of Americans. Madam Speaker, we need a real jobs agenda, not another massive giveaway to big oil. We must pass the American Jobs Act, invest in our infrastructure, increase job training efforts, and strengthen our safety net. We should support the economy and create jobs by investing in the American people. This Congress must ensure that our nation's safety net is a bridge.
The gentlelady is recognized for an additional 20 seconds.
Thank you very much. We just, in conclusion, must ensure that our nation's safety net is a bridge that is strong enough to deliver us all, even the most vulnerable, over these troubled waters. This giveaway to big oil will not do that. We need to protect the public health of the American people. Thank you, and I yield the balance of my time.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from Colorado reserves, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
Pleased to recognize another member of the Resource Committee here who understands this issue very well. Gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Kaufman, for 3 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, this act removes the obstacles that are blocking our efforts to achieve greater American energy production and job creation by providing certainty and clarity to the public lands leasing and permitting process. In particular, my part of this legislation will ensure that federal oil and natural gas lease sales occur on a consistent basis and provide the necessary lease certainty so production is made easier. Currently, there are roughly 1,631 outstanding projects on federal lands, including lands in Colorado, which have been delayed over 3 years. Federal regulatory delays to these projects prevent the creation of over 60,000 jobs. We have endured several years of over 8% unemployment. Over 12% of our veterans who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan are still out of work. The fact that we are not fully benefiting from the employment and financial potential of our energy resources is simply wrong. The President often boasts about his energy record, but this administration regularly delays and blocks leases. In fact, BLM only approved 11 oil and gas leases in Colorado in 2011, where in 2006 there were 363 approvals. We in Colorado understand the importance of harnessing our own resources and the value it provides our economy. The oil and gas industry in Colorado directly employs 50,000 people and supports over 190,000 jobs in our state. This industry is responsible for roughly 6% of total employment in Colorado. We have an opportunity with this legislation to create jobs by developing our own resources right here at home. Opponents of domestic energy exploration claim that the industry already has thousands of acres, but are not producing the wells. These critics point to recent Department of Interior reports that this report represents the reasons for non-producing wells. More often than not, the factors that cause non-production are delays instituted by the Interior Department itself by requiring redundant reviews of projects. One example being the newest master leasing plans instituted by the Secretary. Delays also occur because exploration companies do not have full information as to the capacity of production on the land until after the lease sale is finalized. Therefore, some leases prove to be non-commercial and go unused. Although industry has already paid the government thousands of dollars in fees for the opportunity to explore, many times they receive no economic benefit, and the risk is entirely on them.
Additional minute.
Let me also be clear, because this fact is largely missed by the opponents of this legislation. Only lands that are already approved by BLM for exploration can be nominated by industry. This bill is not a green light for immediate production on all federal acres. Rather, it grants access to a very small percentage of the total of federal lands. As a Coloradoan, I respect the need to preserve our wilderness areas, but I also understand the need to responsibly capitalize on our vast resources in order to get people back to work. As a Marine Corps combat veteran who has served multiple tours in the Middle East, I fully understand the need to reduce our reliance on foreign oil, and this legislation will help do that. For these reasons, I ask my colleagues to vote yes on certainty, yes on jobs, and yes on the final passage of the Domestic Energy and Jobs Act. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Utah reserves, and the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of the amendment in the record along with extraneous material immediately prior to the vote on the previous question.
Without objection.
And here we are while we're debating this death and destruction, oil above all bill, and the clock is ticking on student loan payments that will cost middle-class families millions and millions of dollars. I'd like to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Tierney.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. At the end of this month, the student federal loan interest rate is set to double from 3.4% to 6.8%. It's an urgent deadline for more than 7 million American students and more than 177,000 students across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's an urgent deadline for students that I met with at Middlesex Community College all the way through to Endicott College in my district and elsewhere. These students are working many jobs. They're still carrying thousands of dollars in student debt, and they're deeply concerned about the doubling of the rate that will occur on July 1st. And, Madam Speaker, this is an urgent deadline for House Democrats. We've been on top of this issue for many, many months. Our colleague, Mr. Courtney of Connecticut, introduced legislation establishing a permanent fix back in January. Our colleagues, Mr. Miller of California and Mr. Hanabusa of Texas, sent a letter to Education and Workforce Committee Chairman Mr. Klein in February asking that the question be taken before the committee to prevent the student loan interest hike. It's unfortunate, Madam Speaker, that the majority in the House of Representatives does not appear to understand or share this urgency. There are 10 days left in June, and we're only scheduled to be in session for 5 of them. As of right now, taking action to stop the doubling of the student loan interest rates is still not on the House's legislative agenda between now and the end of the month. In fact, addressing the issue was not part of the Majority Leader's summer legislative agenda, and it was reported that Speaker Boehner privately called the issue a phony issue. So let's make no mistake about it. This is nothing phony for the millions of students who will be impacted and will see their rates double in July. Madam Speaker, since the House majority doesn't appear willing to move forward on this issue, we have to take this action today to defeat the previous question, so the rule can be amended to allow for consideration of my bill, the Stop Rate Hike Act of 2012. That bill continues the current need-based Stafford loan rate at 3.4% for 1 year. It offsets the costs by closing a tax subsidy for the oil industry, just one tax subsidy, one that they weren't originally intended to benefit from at any rate. I think that's a fair and reasonable plan for eliminating an unjustified giveaway to a hugely profitable industry so millions of our constituents do not see an increase in their student loans. I urge my colleagues to defeat the previous question so the House can consider that bill and stop the student loan interest rate hike, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Colorado reserves, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
Reserves.
The gentleman from Utah reserves. The gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
I'd like to inquire of the other side if he has any remaining speakers.
No, I think I'm it.
Very good. Then I'm prepared to close, and I will yield myself the balance of the time.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Now, this rule only provides for consideration of certain amendments. Why are the Republicans so concerned with letting the House work their will on such an important bill? Now, a number of these measures have been brought forward by representatives from Colorado. I want to be clear that these are policies that are not universally supported in Colorado, and that many of us believe that the policies contained in this set of bills would destroy jobs as well as the quality of life and health of not only Colorado and the West, but the entire country. In Colorado, we've created a balanced approach to energy policy that's worked. In some areas we lease, some areas we use for other purposes, some areas we protect. Many Colorado small business owners agree our parks and public lands are critical not only to the economy and job growth, hiking, fishing, hunting, the outdoor industry, but also to our quality of life and our health. This job-destroying federal land grab, federal water grab bill would put tens of thousands of Coloradans out of work and destroy the quality of life for our entire state. This bill puts the wish list of the oil and gas industry above all the other users of public lands, above the interests of hunters, above the interests of fishermen, above the interests of hikers, above the interests of tourism, above the interests of skiers, above the interests of conservationists. This bill is out of touch with the citizens of Colorado and will destroy jobs in Colorado and throughout the country. Look, companies are able to drill. They've been drilling the last 40 years. President Obama's leadership has led to twice the number of drilling wells. Our energy production is at an 8-year peak from oil and gas. And we continue to increase our energy production on public lands, and there's a responsible way to do it. But we need a balanced approach that doesn't throw out the safeguards and protections that protect the health of children, the health of families, to protect our jobs in the outdoor industry, that protect our jobs in the recreation industry, and protect our quality of life across the western United States, and laws that protect our water and laws that protect our air. This bill, this series of omnibus death and destruction bills simply fails that test. The American people deserve more than a death and destruction, oil above all omnibus package that's being offered here today. While millions of Americans are waiting on the unemployment lines, we need a bill that creates jobs rather than destroys jobs. Increased concentration of toxic chemicals can harm the health of American citizens and Coloradans. Now, there's great promise and opportunity in technology that will allow companies to drill with less impact on human health and the environment. That's why we have a regulatory framework to ensure that there's incentive to make sure that American families are safe. This package of job-destroying bills brought before us today would harm our sensitive lands and constitutes a federal land grab and federal water grab, all without lowering the price at the pump and destroying tens of thousands of jobs in the process. This death and destruction bill is simply not what this country needs to move forward. I urge my colleagues to oppose the rule and oppose the bill. I urge a no vote on the rule and defeat the previous question, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Colorado yields back his time, and the gentleman from Utah is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In the 111th Congress, when the other side was in charge, House Bill 2454 was brought forth from the floor. It was called the American Clean Energy and Security Act. There were 224 amendments submitted. One was made in order. In our bill today, 27 amendments are made in order, two-thirds of which are Democrat amendments. This is a very fair rule and will provide for an open and clear debate on the particular issue. Let's face it, Madam Speaker, the United States has a lot of untapped areas on public lands that are involved not only in oil and oil shale, but natural gas and coal. We are an energy-rich country. We are an energy-producing country. It's about time we recognize that fact and develop the energy that we have for the betterment of our people and for job creation. We need an all-of-the-above strategy that is not just a rhetorical exercise in an election year, but an all-of-the-above strategy that actually really creates something without hidden delays disguised as procedural practices and processes. This bill will create jobs. This bill will keep American dollars at home. This bill will provide economic growth instead of sending our money abroad. This is a good bill, and it is an incredibly fair rule, and I urge its adoption. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time and move the previous question on the resolution.
The gentleman yields back his time. The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker,
the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
on that I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 8 and Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on ordering the previous question will be followed by a 5-minute vote on adoption on the resolution if ordered, and a 5-minute vote on the motion to instruct conferees offered by Mr. Waltz of Minnesota. 15-minute vote.
So the House is holding the first of a series of 3 votes, beginning with a procedural vote to be considered in with this oil and gas production legislation. This is an amendment that would allow consideration of a bill that would keep student loan interest rates at their current levels. Right now they're scheduled to double next month. And that'll be followed by a vote on the rule related to the oil and gas production measure that they've been debating. The final vote in this series would be a motion to instruct conferees to file a transportation bill conference report by this coming Friday. So 3 votes, beginning with a 15-minute vote followed by 2 5-minute votes. Members of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee today have been holding a hearing on contempt proceedings against Attorney General Eric Holder. President Obama invoked executive privilege over documents that the committee had requested regarding the gun-walking tactic known as Operation Fast and Furious. And despite the presidential order which prevents the committee from access to those documents, the committee has been proceeding with their contempt hearing and vote. We've been showing that hearing on our companion network, C-SPAN 3. Right now, the committee's in recess because of these votes that are happening here in the House. They will hold their contempt vote after the House finishes this series of votes. And again, you'll be able to watch the rest of that hearing and the contempt vote on C-SPAN 3. While the House is voting right now, we're going to show you some opening statements from the hearing from Committee Chair Darrell Issa and Ranking Member Elijah Cummings.
The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform will come to order. The committee meets today to consider reporting a resolution to the House of Representatives finding the Attorney General Eric Holder, Jr. in contempt of Congress. On the night of December 14, 2010, in a canyon west of Rio Rico, Arizona, U.S. Border Patrol agents were engaged in a shootout with armed Mexican bandits preying on illegal immigrants. One of the agents was 40-year-old Brian Terry, a 3-year veteran who had served as a U.S. Marine and gone through boot camp at Camp Pendleton in my district. During that firefight, a bullet pierced Agent Terry's aorta, and he died in that canyon. 2 weapons were found at the scene. They were later traced to an operation conducted by the Department of Justice called Fast and Furious. 16 months ago, this committee, along with Senator Chuck Grassley, launched an investigation into whistleblowers' allegations regarding Fast and Furious. We became involved only after Senator Grassley was told he would not receive answers from the Justice Department because, in fact, he did not have subpoena power and was not the chairman. In the course of our investigation, the committee has uncovered serious wrongdoing by the Justice Department. That wrongdoing led to 2,000 weapons crossing the Mexican border that cost lives on both sides of the border, including Brian Terry's. A year and a half later, the Terry family is still searching for answers. The operation contributed to the deaths of countless Mexican citizens. It has soured our relationship with our neighbor to the south. It's created an ongoing safety problem here in the United States, in which even the Attorney General has admitted more lives could be lost. The Department of Justice has fought this committee's investigation every step of the way, starting with an unequivocal denial that it used the reckless tactics we now know were used in Fast and Furious. The denial proved to be false, and ultimately the Justice Department withdrew it. They withdrew it in December, having given it to us in February. Today's contempt is in no small part because the materials between the time a false statement was given to us in writing and later affirmed in sworn testimony by the Justice Department's representative, an officer of the court, a lawyer, and now the dean of a law school, was ultimately false. That intervening period remains one of the areas of investigation. It's clear that Congress relies on its ability to get truthful testimony when investigating wrongdoing in and around the executive branch. In spite of this lack of transparency, the committee has managed to piece together much of what happened, and we believe we can help participate in making sure it never happens again. But our work is not complete, and we need the Department of Justice to cooperate. Thus far, the cooperation has not been forthcoming. Over and over again, the Department has sought to protect its political appointees. It has used this investigation by the Department's Inspector General, which has been pending a very long time, as a reason not to cooperate. We are now on the second Inspector General. There's been no interim report, and although they say it will be forthcoming within a month, we and the American people need answers sooner, not later. The Attorney General has, in fact, said he has gone to extraordinary measures to participate and to help. We've received to date approximately 7,600 documents. A great many of those documents are, in fact, responsive to other operations conducted before he was Attorney General. And those documents pale in comparison to the 80,000 documents or more that the Inspector General has received. Our purpose has never been to hold the Attorney General in contempt. Our purpose has always been to get the information the committee needs to complete its work that it is not only entitled to, but obligated to do. We had offered the Department an accommodation to address its concerns about information related to ongoing prosecutions. If the Justice Department had delivered the documents they freely admitted they could deliver, we wouldn't be here today. As late as last night, in discussions with the Attorney General, his offer was only to give us a briefing and such documents as supported the briefing, and then only if we ended the investigation. Contempt today is not about whether we end the investigation or not. It is about a narrow subset of the documents that the committee must ultimately receive. The subpoenas are 8 months old. We have not received a credible reason for them not being supplied, and in fact, no constitutional assertion has occurred. Rather, it is the duty of the executive branch and its agencies to represent itself honestly before Congress and to make available such transparency as necessary for us to fund and authorize now and in the future the request of this and future presidents. Only today, only a few minutes before the gaveling of this markup, did we receive from the Deputy Attorney General a letter dated today, not spoken of last night, which says, and I'd ask unanimous consent the entire letter be placed in the record. Without objection, so ordered. In the first paragraph, it says, I write now to inform you that the President has asserted executive privilege over relevant post-February 4th, 2011 documents. It goes on for several pages. As I speak, the committee is evaluating this. We have verified that no communication from the President has arrived before the House. Additionally, at least in a preliminary evaluation, we discover that the President, well after February 4th, has said that, in fact, he has not discussed this and was not made aware of it. Additionally, the Attorney General has repeatedly given us testimony showing that he did not speak to the President about this. I now read for the record from page 25 of When Congress Comes Calling, which is from the Constitution Project. And I apologize if this seems preliminary, but this communication arrived only within minutes of the start of this markup. Executive privilege. The President's communications privilege, and I quote, the communications in question must relate to the quintessential and non-delegatable presidential power that requires direct presidential decision-making. The privilege is limited to the core constitutional powers of the President, such as the power to appoint and remove, the Commander-in-Chief power, the sole authority to receive ambassadors and public ministers, and the pardoning power. I claim not to be a constitutional scholar, but the House is currently working to find out what assertions may in fact arrive, and we will take notice of them. Having said that, more than 8 months after a subpoena, and clearly after the question of executive privilege could have and should have been asserted, this untimely assertion by the Justice Department falls short of any reason to delay today's proceedings. We have made many attempts to accommodate the Justice Department. Originally, some 22 areas were on our subpoena, many of which were never complied with. We narrowed 3 master areas to 2 in a letter on May 18th, unprecedented letter from the Speaker of the House, asking for cooperation and narrowing the scope of the subpoena. Since that time, we have further narrowed to 1 area for purposes of contempt, and we have been denied. The Attorney General has refused to cooperate, offering to provide subpoena documents only if the committee agrees in advance to close the investigation. No investigator would ever agree to that, and as you could understand, the other information related to those in the chain of command responsible for Brian Terry's murder and the death of individuals both north and south of the border cannot be concluded simply based on a briefing about post-February 4th. The Attorney General says that his offer is extraordinary. The only thing extraordinary about his offer is that he is asking the committee to close an investigation before the committee even gets to see the documents. He is pretending to offer. I can't accept that deal. No other committee chairman would. This committee will be considering today a very narrow contempt. But members on both sides of the dais have repeatedly said that we owe it to the Terry family to get to the truth. It is my intention to continue post-contempt to do our job while meeting our other obligations to pursue waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. And with that, I recognize the ranking member for his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, first of all, go back for one moment, and the document that you read from June 20th, 2012, the one that you and I just got from James Cole, Deputy Attorney General, I just wanted, since we were talking about executive privilege, and I do believe that we need to study this and make sure that we understand exactly what the President is asserting here, but just want to quote from it, on the last page, page 4. It says, the legal basis for the President's assertion of executive privilege is set forth in the enclosed letter to the President and Attorney General. In brief, the compelled production to Congress of these internal executive branch documents generated in the course of the deliberative process concerning the Department's response to congressional oversight and related media inquiries would have significant damaging consequences. As I explained at our meeting yesterday, and this is still quoting from the letter, it would inhibit the candor of such executive branch deliberations in the future and significantly impair the executive branch's ability to respond independently and effectively to congressional oversight. Such compelled disclosure would be inconsistent with the separation of powers established in the Constitution and would potentially create an imbalance in the relationship between these two co-equal branches of government. And now to my statement. First and foremost, I believe that Congress does, in fact, and we will agree on this, Mr. Chairman, have a responsibility to conduct vigorous oversight of the executive branch. That is our job. The Constitution requires this from Congress, and the American people expect it from members who serve on this committee, and I take that very seriously. But the Constitution also requires something else. It requires us to recognize the legitimate interests of the executive branch and to avoid unnecessary conflict by seeking reasonable accommodations when possible. In my opinion, the committee has failed in this fundamental responsibility. Last night, the Attorney General came to us in good faith. He offered to provide additional internal deliberative documents. He pledged to provide a substantive briefing on the Department's actions. He agreed to a request by Senator Grassley to describe the categories of documents being produced and those being withheld. He made clear that he was willing to provide substantive responses to additional questions. And he even offered to provide documents that are outside the scope of the committee's subpoena. And he also made it clear that he had already provided documents that weren't even asked for. All he requested in return was that you, as chairman of this committee, give him your good faith commitment that we would move toward resolving this contempt fight. Didn't ask for ending the investigation, just ending this contempt fight. And I double-checked with my staff because when you said that, I heard, I was in the meeting with him, and I heard what he said. He was very clear. It was a fair and reasonable offer, especially in the light of the partisan and highly inflammatory personal attacks you made against him throughout this investigation. For the past year, you've been holding the Attorney General to an impossible standard. You accuse him of a cover-up, and I quote, that's a quote, protecting documents he was prohibited by law from producing. Let me say that again. You accuse him of a cover-up for protecting documents that he was prohibited by law from producing. You claim that he, and I quote, obstructed, end of quote, the committee's work by complying with federal statutes passed by both houses of Congress and signed by the President of the United States. And earlier this month, you went on national television and called the Attorney General, the nation's highest-ranking chief law enforcement officer, a liar. At the same time, you refused requests to hold a public hearing with Ken Melson, the former head of ATF, the agency responsible for conducting these operations. This refusal came after Mr. Melson told the committee investigators privately that he never informed senior officials at the Justice Department about gun walking during Operation Fast and Furious because he was unaware himself. Last night, you flatly rejected the Attorney General's offer. You refused to even commit to working towards a mutually agreeable resolution. Instead, you rushed to a prearranged press conference to announce the failure of the meeting. It seems clear that you had no interest in resolving this issue and that the committee planned to go forward with contempt before we walked into the meeting with the Attorney General. It pains me to say this, but this is what I believe. This is especially disappointing since the Department has already turned over more than 1,000 pages of documents that answer your question. You want to know why the Department sent a letter to Senator Grassley initially denying allegations of gun walking. The documents show that when they were drafting this letter, the Department's Legislative Affairs Office relied on the categorical and emphatic denials from the leaders of ATF. These are the same ATF officials you now refuse to call for a public hearing. This morning, we were informed that the administration is now asserting executive privilege over, and you're right, a narrow subset, and it is indeed narrow, of documents that remain at issue. As I understand it, the assertion does not cover everything in this category, such as whistleblower documents. And the administration has indicated that it remains, and I emphasize remains, willing to try to come to a mutual resolution despite its formal legal assertion. As a member of Congress, I treat assertions of executive privilege very seriously, and I believe they should be used only sparingly. In this case, it seems clear that the administration was forced into a position by the committee's unreasonable insistence on pressing forward with contempt despite the Attorney General's good faith offer. Mr. Chairman, it did not have to be this way. It really didn't. We could have postponed today's vote, accepted the Attorney General's offer, and worked with the Department to obtain additional documents and information. Instead, by not honoring the Constitution's charge to seek accommodation when possible, the position and prestige of this committee has been diminished, and the result should concern us all. With that, I yield back.
I trust the gentleman did not mean to demean my intention, but for the record, the press conference that occurred after our meeting was equally usable and intended to announce that we had a deal and a stay if it was appropriate, and I had prepared a written statement saying that we would be staying today's markup had we been offered anything pursuant to our letters. So I trust the gentleman would realize that it could have gone another way and we had no idea.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you when you say that. I trust that that's what the situation was. I simply was giving my opinion of the way it was set up. That's all.
I thank the gentleman.
And that contempt vote is expected to take place this afternoon. You can see live coverage on C-SPAN 3. A previous question vote in the House right now. A 5-minute vote on the rule debating the oil and gas production legislation they've been working on. And the House will finish up with a motion to instruct conferees to file a transportation bill conference report by this coming Friday.
On this vote, the yeas are 242, the nays are 183. The previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Gentleman from Colorado, seek recognition. The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 5-minute vote.
Lawmakers have moved on to the second vote in this series now. 5-minute vote on the rule debating this oil and gas production measure. They will finish up this series with a motion to instruct conferees to file a transportation bill conference report by this coming Friday. After that, we expect 2 hours of general debate on oil